Mescalero Apache is an Apache tribe of Southern Athabaskan Native Americans. The tribe is federally recognized as the Mescalero Apache Tribe of the Mescalero Apache Reservation, located in south-central New Mexico. In the 19th century, the Mescalero opened the reservation to other Apache bands, such as the Mimbreno and the Chiricahua, many of whom had been imprisoned in Florida.The Lipan Apache also joined the reservation. Their descendants are enrolled in the Mescalero Apache Tribe Reservation, originally established on May 27, 1873, by executive order of President Ulysses S. Grant. The reservation was first located near Fort Stanton. The present reservation was established in 1883. It has a land area of 1,862.463 square kilometers, almost entirely in Otero County. The 463,000-acre reservation lies on the eastern flank of the Sacramento Mountains and borders the Lincoln National Forest. A small unpopulated section is in Lincoln County, just southwest of the city of Ruidoso. U.S. Route 70 is the major highway through the reservation. The tribe has an economy based largely on ranching and tourism. The mountains and foothills are forested with pines. Resource and commercial development is managed carefully by the Mescalero Apache Tribal Council. The Mescalero Apache developed a cultural center near the tribal headquarters on U.S. Route 70 in the reservation's largest community of Mescalero. On display are tribal artifacts and important historical information. The tribe also operates another, larger museum on the western flank of the Sacramento Mountains in Dog Canyon, south of Alamo Gordo. The tribe developed and owns the Inn of the Mountain Gods Resort and Casino within Lincoln National Forest. As part of the IMG operation, the tribe also owns and manages Ski Apache under contract as a concession with the U.S. Forest Service. It is the southernmost major ski area in North America. In January 2012, Ski Apache celebrated its 50th anniversary. The ski area is situated adjacent to the massive peak of Sierra Blanca, a 12,003-foot mountain. It is the southernmost alpine peak in the continental United States and is part of the Sacramento Mountains. Using the EPA's Level 3 ecoregion system, derived from Omanik, this mountain is included in the Arizona-New Mexico Mountains, which is south of the Southern Rocky Mountains of northern New Mexico. Sierra Blanca Peak, located on the reservation, is sacred ground for the Mescalero Apache Tribe. They do not allow access without a permit. Tribal government. The Mescalero Apache Tribe holds elections for the office of president every 2 years. The 8 tribal council members also are elected for 2 years. Election for the council is held every year, when one half of the members are up for re-election. The reservation had a population of 3,156 according to the 2000 census. In 1959, the tribe elected Virginia Clinical as its first woman president. She later was elected to the tribal council, serving on it until 1986. The tribe repeatedly re-elected Wendell Chino as president. He served a total of 43 years, until his death on November 4, 1998. Soon after Chino's death, the late Sara Misquez was elected as president. Chino's son, Mark Chino, also has been elected and served as president. New officers have served in the 21st century. On January 11, 2008, Carlton H. Palmer was sworn in as the new president of the Mescalero Apache Tribe. Since 2014, Danny Broninger has served in office, now in his second term. Gabby Aguilar is vice president. Culture and language. The Mescalero language is a Southern Athabaskan language which is a subfamily of the Athabaskan and Indo-Yeniseian families. Mescalero is part of the southwestern branch of this subfamily. It is very closely related to Chiricahua, and more distantly related to Western Apache. These are considered the three dialects of Apachean. Although Navajo is a related Southern Athabaskan language, its language and culture are considered distinct from those of the Apache. The Mescalero Apache were primarily a nomadic mountain people. They traveled east on the arid plains to hunt the buffalo and south into the desert for gathering mescal agave. Spanish colonists associated them with this plant and named them Mescalero Apache. The Mescalero Apache, along with the other Apache groups, lived by traditional hunting and gathering. If conditions were poor, they raided other tribes and Spanish, Mexican and American settlers to survive. Origin of name. The Mescaleros' autonym, or name for themselves, is Shisinde Amashkalen. The Navajo, another Athabaskan-speaking tribe, called the Mescalero Nashgalidine Eakute. Like other Apache peoples, they often identify simply as Inde. Neighboring Apache bands called the Mescalero Nadarende, because the mescal agave was a staple food source for them. In times of need and hunger, they depended on stored mescal for survival. Since 1550, Spanish colonists referred to them as the Mescalero. Mescalero Apache bands were often referred to by European colonists and settlers by different names, some related to the geographic territory. They were recorded in documents by a wide number of names. Apaches de Cuarteajo, Apaches del Rio Grande, Apache, Farawans, Mescaleros, Natij, Natahayan, Quiracha, Tuyas, Tularosa Apaches, and Vaqueros. They were also distinguished as Sierra Blanca Apaches, Sacramento Mountains Apaches, Guadalupe Mountains Apaches, Limpia Mountains Apaches, according to the homelands in northern or southern Mescalero territory. Tribal territory. Originally, the different Mescalero bands and local groups ranged in an area between the Rio Grande in the west and the eastern and southern edge of the Llano Estacado and the southern Texas Panhandle in Texas in the east, from present-day Santa Fe in the northwest and the Texas Panhandle in the northeast, down to the Big Bend of Texas and what became the Mexican provinces of Chihuahua and Coahuila to the south. The diverse landscape of this area has high mountains up to 12,000 feet, as well as watered and sheltered valleys, surrounded by arid semi-deserts and deserts, deep canyons and open plains. The Mescalero Apache Reservation is located at geographical coordinates 33.17833 degrees north, 105.61222 degrees west, 33.17833 minus 105.61222. Since each band of Mescalero had the right to use the resources of deer and plants of the neighboring groups, the different bands felt at home in any area of the wide tribal territory. The Mescalero bands often ranged widely for hunting, gathering, warring and raiding. They called the home in Deshlin Naka. When many Mescalero bands were displaced by the enemy Comanche from the southern plains in northern and central Texas between 1700 to 1750, they took refuge in the mountains of New Mexico, western Texas, and Coahuila and Chihuahua in Mexico. Some southern Mescalero bands, together with Lipan, lived in the Bolsonga Mapami, moving between the Nazas River, the Conchos River and the Rio Grande to the north. Bands Nadarende, Gulcaende, Gualgarende developed kinship ties by marriage with the Comanche. Desipanande, Silniende, Chalande, Slavende, Nitende, Niitahe acute NDE people lived in the Sacramento Mountains in New Mexico and the Guadalupe Mountains in western Texas. Closing parenthesis. See Hitende, Sabikanende, Tahuende, Tavhunde, Tween Sunday, Tunsand, Tuatanini, Tuatinan. The Natarende had a considerable influence on the decision-making of some bands of the Western Lipan in the 18th century, especially on the Tindi Nde acute Tchhka Oje, Tui acute Dine Nde acute and Tu Sis Nde acute, to fight their common enemy, the Comanche, and to protect the northeastern and eastern border of the Apache area against the Comanche area. The Mescalero on the plains joined forces with the Lipan to the east and south of them. In August 1912, by an act of the U.S. Congress, the surviving members of the Chiricahua tribe were released from the prisoner of war status. They were given the choice to remain at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, where they had been imprisoned since, or to relocate to the Mescalero Apache Reservation. 183 elected to go to New Mexico, while 78 remained in Oklahoma. The descendants still reside in both places. Notable Mescalero historical chiefs and headmen: Gorgonio, Northern Mescalero medicine man, aide to Old Barranquito and, later, to Santana. Gomez, Southern Mescalero chief who led a large band of 5 local groups with about 400 warriors. His band lived in the Big Bend country and the Trans-Pecos on both sides of the Rio Grande. His stronghold was in the Olympia Mountains, later named Davis Mountains. When Governor Trias offered 1,000 pesos for his scalp, Gomez offered an equal amount for any Mexican or American scalp. His segundos, or war chiefs, were Sigrito, Chinonero, Simon Porode, and Simon Manuel. Sigrito, leader of the local group in the Olympia aka Davis Mountains and in the lowlands of the Trans-Pecos. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero chief Gomez, 1840s-1860s. Chinonero, leader of the local group in the Olympia aka Davis Mountains and in the lowlands of the Trans-Pecos. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero chief Gomez, 1840s-1860s. Simon Porode, leader of the local group in West Texas. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero chief Gomez. In 1850 he and Simon Manuel contacted the garrison at San Luis Rio to sue for peace, but were lightly overruled by Gomez. 1840s-1860s. Simon Manuel, leader of the local group in West Texas. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero chief Gomez. In 1850 he and leader Simon Porode contacted the garrison at San Luis Rio to sue for peace, but were lightly overruled by Gomez. 1840s-1860s. Marco aka Marcus, Southern Mescalero chief who led a band of about 600 people, including about 200 warriors, presumably Chende or Niitahe acute Nde. They lived in the Big Bend country, ranged on both sides of the Rio Grande from the Guadalupe Mountains toward east of the Olympia Mountains aka Davis Mountains onto the edge of the Southern Plains. He was reported to have led frequent raids and attacks of parties on the San Antonio Road and in the settlement near El Paso. He wished to join the Sierra Blanca Mescalero band, but the request was refused, because they were considered a Texas Mescalero band, active in the 1840s-1860s. Espejo, Nicholas and Antonio. They ranged between Olympia Canyon, Horsehead crossing on the Pecos and east of the Lipan aka Davis Mountains onto the surrounding desert lowlands of the Trans-Pecos in West Texas. For the 1840s, late 1860s, Nicholas, leader of a local group of the Subicanende band in the Lipan aka Davis Mountains and east onto the edge of the Southern Plains. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero Chief Espejo, 1840s-1860s. Antonio, leader of a local group of the Subicanende band in the Lipan aka Davis Mountains and east onto the edge of the Southern Plains. Segundo and war chief of Southern Mescalero Chief Espejo, 1840s-1860s. Mateo stayed together with Varancha in the vicinity of Dog Canyon in the Sacramento Mountains and presumably followed the old ways of hunt and raid, since they were considered troublesome. 1840s-1860s. Varancha, Barranquito, Santana, Cadet, also known as Giasnot's son, Gianatsa, of son and successor of Barranquito. After Santana, he was the most prominent and powerful chief of the Sierra Blanca Mescalero band, was more diplomatic than Santana and was a spokesman for the northern Mescalero bands. After the outbreak from Bosque Redondo in November 3, 1863, he had fled with his band toward the Staked Plains, trading stolen cattle and horses from Mexico directly via the Comanchero to Comanche. He was murdered in 1872 while on a peace mission and returning from Tularosa. Ramon Grande, a son and successor of Barranquito, serving as chief of a local group of the Sierra Blanca Mescalero band. Less important than Santana and Cadet, he followed the lead of his brother Santana, died during an epidemic in 1885. Josecito, after Barranquito and Santana, the most prominent leader of similar local groups of the Sierra Blanca Mescalero band. In April 1852, he signed a treaty with Calhoun representing the U.S., together with the minor leader of another group of the Sierra Blanca Mescalero and Chacon, leader of the Mescalero Apache, Nortally, and persuaded many warriors not to join the Chichen chief Victorio in Victorio's war. San Juan Caballero, principal chief of the bands of the Sacramento Mountains during the decades 1860s and 1870s, close ally and longtime friend of the great Mimbreno chief Victorio. In March 1880 he left Tularosa and joined Victorio, fighting alongside with him the last battles, but, according to some reports, he was killed in a trouble between the chiefs before the Tres Castillos massacre on October 14, 1880. Alsate, a Mescalero band in the Limpia Mountains, Chisos Mountains and Chinati Mountains in the Big Bend area, the Sierra del Carmen of Coahuila and Sierra Alamos in Chihuahua north of the Bolson de Mapamí, born to a Mescalero woman and a member by blood of the influential Musquiz family, captured with his band in 1878 at San Carlos de Chihuahua and deported to Mexico City to be jailed in La Acordada, succeeded in escaping with his people in December 1879 and came back to the Big Bend, was caught again at San Carlos de Chihuahua in 1880 and executed together with his segundos Colorado and Zerillo at Ojinaga, opposite Presidio del Norte, Texas. His people were sold into slavery in Mexico, California. 1860–1882, Colorado. Zerillo, Carnovis, Peso and Magoosh were the three primary leaders on the reservation, Magoosh for the Lipans at Elk Springs, Sin Miedo at Tule Canyon and Peso representing the Rinconada and the Three Rivers. Sin Miedo, Muchacho Negro, local group leader of warriors, joined the Chichen chief Victorio about 1860, died 1930. Other notable Mescalero Goian, female warrior: Michael Horse, actor, painter; Wendell Chino, former tribal president of the Mescalero Apache Tribe for 43 years. Virginia Clinical, first female tribal president. Sarah Misquez, a former tribal president. INE Acutes Alamantes, ethnographer and theologian. Bibliography. Castetta, Edward F. and Amp Opala, Morris E. The Ethnobiology of the Chiricahua and Mescalero Apache. The use of plants for foods, beverages and narcotics. Ethnobiological Studies in the American Southwest. Biological Series. Bulletin, University of New Mexico, Hole, Albuquerque, University of New Mexico Press. Debo Angie, Geronimo, The Man, His Time, His Place, Norman, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma Press, ISBN 08061-18288. Hollier, Harry, and Amp Opala, Morris E. Chiricahua and Mescalero Apache Texts. The University of Chicago Publications in Anthropology. Linguistic Series. Chicago, University of Chicago Press. Opala, Morris E. An Analysis of Mescalero and Chiricahua Apache Social Organization in the Light of the Systems of Relationship. Unpublished doctoral dissertation. University of Chicago. Opala, Morris E. The Concept of Supernatural Power Among the Chiricahua and Mescalero Apaches. American Anthropologist, 37, 65-70. Opala, Morris E. The Kinship Systems of the Southern Athabaskan Speaking Tribes. American Anthropologist, 38, 620-633. Sonicson, C. L. The Mescalero Apaches, Norman, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma Press, ISBN 08061-16153. Seymour, Denny J. Conquest and Concealment, After the El Paso Phase on Fort Bliss. Conservation Division, Directorate of Environment, Fort Bliss, Lone Mountain Report 525-528. This document can be obtained by contacting Belinda Mollard at US Army, Mill. Seymour, Denny J. Proto-Historic and Early Historic Temporal Resolution. Conservation Division, Directorate of Environment, Fort Bliss, Lone Mountain Report 560-003. This document can be obtained by contacting Belinda Mollard at US Army, Mill. Seymour, Denny J. The Cerro Rojo Complex, a unique indigenous assemblage in the El Paso area and its implications for the early Apache. Proceedings of the 12th Jornada de Mogollon Conference in 2001. Geomarine, El Paso. Seymour, Denny J. A ranch area in the Gran Apache area. Evidence of intercultural interaction at the Cerro Rojo site. Plains, Anthropologist 49-153-192. Seymour, Denny J. Before the Spanish Chronicles, Early Apache in the Southern Southwest, pp. 120-142. In Ancient and Historic Lifeways in North America's Rocky Mountains. Proceedings of the 2003 Rocky Mountain Anthropological Conference, Estes Park, Colorado. Edited by Robert H. Brunswig and William B. Butler, Department of Anthropology, University of Northern Colorado, Greeley. Seymour, Denny J. Sexually Based War Crimes as Structured Conflict Strategies, an archaeological example from the American Southwest, in Texas and points west. Papers in honor of John A. Hedrick and Carol P. Hedrick, edited by Reg N. Wiseman, Thomas C. O'Loughlin, and Cordelia T. Snow, pp. 117-134. Papers of the Archaeological Society of New Mexico No. 33. Archaeological Society of New Mexico, Albuquerque. Seymour, Denny J. Apache, Spanish, and Proto-Historic Archaeology on Fort Bliss. Conservation Division, Directorate of Environment, Fort Bliss, Lone Mountain Report 560-005. With Tim Church, see more. Denny J. An Archaeological Perspective on the Ho'ocampima Continuum. Old Pueblo Archaeology Bulletin No. 51, 1-7. See more. Denny J. Despoblado or Athabaskan Heartland. A methodological perspective on ancestral Apache landscape use in the Safford area. Chapter 5 in Crossroads of the Southwest, Culture, Ethnicity, and Migration in Arizona's Safford Basin, pp. 121-162, edited by David E. Purcell, Cambridge Scholars Press, New York. See more. Denny J. A Pledge of Peace, Evidence of the Cochise Howard Treaty Campsite. Historical Archaeology 42-154-179. With George Robertson. See more. Denny J. Apache Plain and Other Plainwares on Apache Sites in the Southern Southwest. In Serendipity, Papers in Honor of Francis Joan Mathien, edited by R.N. Wiseman, T.C. O'Loughlin, C. T. Snow and C. Travis, pp. 163-186. Papers of the Archaeological Society of New Mexico No. 34. Archaeological Society of New Mexico, Albuquerque. See more. Denny J. Surfing Behind the Wave, a counterpoint discussion relating to a ranch area in the Grand Apache area. Plains, Anthropologist 53-241-262. See more. Denny J. Pre-differentiation Athapaskans in the 13th and 14th century Southern Southwest. Chapter in edited volume under preparation. Also paper in the symposium, The Earliest Athapaskans in Southern Southwest, Implications for Migration, organized and shared by Denny C. Moore, Society for American Archaeology, Vancouver. See more. Denny J. Evaluating Eyewitness Accounts of Native Peoples along the Coronado Trail from the international border to Cibola, New Mexico. Historical Review 84-399-435. See more. Denny J. Distinctive Places, Suitable Spaces, Conceptualizing Mobile Group Occupational Duration and Landscape Use. International Journal of Historical Archaeology 13-255-281. See more. Denny J. 19th Century Apache Wickerups, Historically Documented Models for Archaeological Signatures of the Dwellings of Mobile People, Antiquity 83-157-164. See more. Denny J. Comments on genetic data relating to Athabaskan migrations, implications of the Milhi al. Study for the Apache and Navajo. American Journal of Physical Anthropology 139-281-283. See more. Denny J. The Cerro Rojo Site, a large mountain-top ancestral Apache site in southern New Mexico. Digital History Project, New Mexico Office of the State Historian, http://www.newmexicohistory.org. Select Place Communities, click on Cerro Rojo on the map. See more. Denny J. Cycles of Renewal, Transportable Assets, Aspects of the Ancestral Apache Housing Landscape. Accepted at Plains Anthropologist. See more. Denny J. Contextual Incongruities, Statistical Outliers, and Anomalies, Targeting Inconspicuous Occupational Events. American Antiquity.